Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Joined alongside Tim live in Green Bay. Back to talk some Green Bay Packers on this glorious Wednesday afternoon. Beautiful weather down here in Tennessee. And just ready for some football this Sunday as we get set to take on the Los Angeles Rams. I believe that's going to be the 3:25 kickoff window. Is that right, Tim? For those on Lambeau time there.
That's right. According to my schedule, yes, 3:25, but it's got the little star there. You never know.
Right.
They might flex it.
I doubt they will because the Rams are pretty darn banged up. So I'm assuming that'll stay put. And I don't even know how the flex rules are working, to be honest with you, now that things have changed around quite a bit. But nonetheless, can't overlook any opponent. Again, they're wounded. They're without their top two receivers. But like Matt LaFleur mentioned earlier today, they've still got that QB back there, Mr. Matthew Stafford, Super Bowl champion Matthew Stafford. So you got to respect every team you play here in the NFL, no doubt about it. I'll tell you what else you can respect, Tim. That's the good folks over at Ticket King, the official ticket provider of Packer Fan Total Access Live. Wisconsin-based since 92, specializing in Packers tickets. Wisconsin's largest ticket source with offices next to Lambeau and in Milwaukee. Just click on the link in the video description. That'll send you to theticketking.com. where you can register for free as a customer. Go ahead and start shopping for your Packers tickets. Again, that's Ticket King, the official ticket provider of Packer Fan Total Access Live. So obviously the big talking point, Tim, it was cool to see how everything evolved as we went through the week here. And I know we're only at Wednesday, but Monday, people still a little shell-shocked from the game. By Tuesday, you heard people going, I'm glad we got that Russ game out of the way, right? And I really feel like that's what's happened with Jordan. You could see it in the second half. It seemed like he settled down. So we're obviously going to be monitoring the knee throughout the week. We haven't got the injury report yet. So if it does drop before we get offline here, we'll try to hit on all the details there. But I'm feeling really good about the way Jay Love finished that game, Tim, the way he was moving around. We did chalk talk yesterday. And obviously in the second half, man, he was throwing some dimes on the run, really settled in. How you feeling about it, man? You think he'll be completely healthy this week?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think he looked good on Sunday. You know, I was a little off on my prediction. I thought it would take a series or two, and it took, basically 2 quarters for Jay Money to shake that rust off. And, hey, it's normal. You miss a lot of live game reps like that. You're not going to have, that your legs under you, no pun intended. He's got a bad knee. We all understand this, but it takes a little time to kind of get your momentum and get that groove back. And we saw that early in the third quarter. We saw the throws were, crispier. They were not underthrown like they were in the first half. And his reads were better, diagnosing that defense. Minnesota liked to do a lot of sugar. And we saw Jordan picking up, blitzes and things like that, changing the protection. So, it just took him a half of football to kind of, get back to game speed. And I fully expect that going into LA here, that he'll be 100% moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. And you kind of seen the same thing happen there with the defense as well, to take a little bit of time to get settled in. And obviously they started bringing a little more blitz. It kind of felt like early on they were planning on just using a 4-man rush. And when they realized, man, these tackles for Minnesota are the real deal, we're going to have to try to generate some pressure somehow, some way. I mean, really, what it comes down to, it's become glaringly obvious how offenses are approaching playing the Green Bay Packers in their 4-man rush. They're going to chip Rashawn Gary. If it makes sense, they're going to chip Preston as well. They're begging the interior defensive line to beat them. And right now it just hasn't happened. So hopefully the Packers can get that squared away and put together this weekend. I'll say this, man. There's some bulletin board material out there, Tim, and it didn't come from the Rams, but everyone is talking about how this pass rush sucks. So you can bet your rear end those guys are going to be ready to go on Sunday. I wouldn't be surprised to see them. And it sounds like they've got a fairly weak offensive line, pretty banged up offensive line too. We've seen what we did against Tennessee, generating all that pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wonder if that's going to affect Matt LaFleur's game plan here, going into LA. If the pass rush is a little weaker, I wonder if we're going to dial up some more, plays that involve Jordan kind of working the pocket, extending the play, those kind of things. So, we'll see what happens. It's going to be a interesting matchup. It's a must-win game for both of these teams. So we'll see what happens on Sunday.
Definitely. Matt Schneidman tweeted out, players in rehab area during team stretch was Jair Alexander, Christian Watson, Elgton Jenkins, Davante Wyatt, Luke Musgrave. And it said Kenny Clark warmed up with the team but isn't outside during media reviewing. Jordan Morgan returned to practice. Carrington Valentine is also practicing. So that's great news, obviously. Again, in the heat of the battle, you take a you go down 28-0 against a division opponent and division rival, and probably the one of, if not the most hated rivals of the Packers and the Vikings. And it's easy to forget, hey, hold up a second, guys. We're missing our top two cornerbacks in this game, right? And we're going up against one of the best wide receiver tandems in the league. So the fact that they were able to kind of piece it together there in the second half, shut them out, I'm excited to see what they can do moving forward for sure. So just wanted to hit on that with the practice. You see the shot there of Love throwing the ball to Romeo Dobbs, looking for Dobbs to break out here soon as well. There was something else I wanted to hit on. Oh, since we already kind of talked about Elgton Jenkins there a little bit, some people were wondering what happened with Elgton. I haven't got complete confirmation this was the play that it happened, but I thought it was cool that Andy Herman did tweet this out, and I'm just going to kind of let it loop for you guys. And his tweet basically says, extremely thankful that Elgton Jenkins was okay here. This looks like it could have been catastrophic. And you see he's pulling around. He's the pulling guard. And obviously a linebacker comes in or a defensive end comes in, makes the tackle, slams into the back of Elgton. That could have been bad, Tim.
Yeah, I mean, it probably was bad enough. It can't feel good whether or not he actually injured himself, or not. I mean, that doesn't look good. That's not getting rolled up on. That's a guy literally falling into the back of your leg. Right? Yeah, and it's a big boy too. It's not a corner, or a receiver or somebody. That's a big old lineman falling on the back of your legs there. So hopefully Big E is okay. Looking at the injury report there that you had up, or not the injury report, but basically who was practicing today. It, limited or not, working with the rehab group or not, it's a good sign. It's better than did not participate. So, Big E's a tough dude and, kind of that core member of the left side of that line. And I think he'll be all right going forward. But yeah, that looked really bad at first glance for sure.
It did. And, when you hear about it pop up on the injury report, I think Matt to me, it sounded like Matt was pretty confident that Elgton's okay. It sounded like everybody in the media that were tweeting out things sounds like Elgton's going to be just fine. It's just, it was cool to see Andy Herman kind of run that play down there, because that might have been what caused it, right? So,
oh yeah, for sure.
Luckily, or hopefully we caught a break there for sure. A couple other things here. Jordan Love update. Tom Silverstein tweeted out, LaFleur said he can see improvement in the way that quarterback Jordan Love is throwing the ball. He said he could see it as the game wore on last Sunday, and that the more he plays, the more he'll get back to being who he was pre-injury. Matt Schneidman said LaFleur on Jordan Love after today's practice, quote, he did a really nice job. It looks like he's just getting back in the groove. So when you throw for almost 400 yards and 4 touchdown passes, he did throw 4 touchdown passes, right? Yeah.
Here's the guy.
And you're just now getting back into the groove. Again, many of those interceptions there was multiple factors to it. Now, the accuracy was an issue all day long. Obviously, we've seen the ball. It seemed like he couldn't drive the ball as much in the first half. There was a lot of low throws. Now, some people could say, hey, it hit the receivers in the hands. They should catch it. I agree. But at the same time, you need to take into consideration the accuracy was off too. But there was just some bad decisions by Love. There was some inaccuracy. There was also some routes that were run inaccurately, which we talked about that. LaFleur pointed out, and I don't want to, just start name dropping everyone who made a mistake. Would be here all day. And that's really not the purpose of bringing it up. It's just, there's a lot left out there on the field. And the fact that you almost won that game and scored that many points in one half of football is wild. So I think we're going to be just fine. Ryan Wood tweeted out, Jordan Love says he's back to taking all the first team reps in practice this week. No lingering issues from sprained MCL in his left knee after returning last week versus the Vikings. So Tim, sounds like he's right back on the cusp here of being 100%, taking the first team reps. Obviously he didn't do that last week. And really that goes along with the whole rust talk, right? You can't take those first team reps. You're going to be even rustier.
Yeah, and we talk about, Jordan having a little bit of rust. How about the offense being a little rusty with him at the helm, right? We've had Malik Willis for 2 weeks. We've had Malik Willis, taking first-team reps for, 2.5 weeks at practice. You get Jay Money coming back, getting ready for last week's game. And yeah, it's not a huge surprise that they were a little out of sync. And that may, explain some of these, quote unquote bad reads that Jordan had, or maybe guys breaking off a route early, or, running a route too deep or too shallow, those kind of things. Hey, it's been a few weeks. They're a little out of sync, and we saw it in the second half. We saw things start to click and a little bit of rhythm start to present itself. And, I feel great going into this week's matchup against the Rams, even though it is a road trip. And, you can't count LA out. That's a Sean McVay team. And, you got to account for those guys, regardless of what their record is or how they're playing right now, any given Sunday mentality. But I feel great about this Packers offense, looking at how we closed out this game against the Vikings, because for all intents and purposes, we should have got boat raced after that first half performance. And these guys never said die. They had no quit in them. And, they finally hit their momentum. Unfortunately, we needed an onside kick to kind of stay in the game there. But I feel like they're, back within rhythm, so to speak. You saw Tay Wicks start to free up. You saw Jaden Reed playing well. You saw Rome playing well. I think the receivers just, it's going to take some more reps to kind of get back in the flow with Jay Money at the helm. But I'm not super concerned right now. If we would have got all out boat raced on Sunday, we'd have a little bit more to discuss right here. But I thought this team showed a lot of fight. And I think they, got back in rhythm there. It was just a little too late.
Yeah. And I remember halftime, set the chart down. I'm going to go downstairs to get a slice of pizza. And I remember going down the stairs to the kitchen and thinking, about to learn something about this team. Let's see if they got some fight in them. And boy, they did. And the way they ended the first half too. Obviously scoring right there before the end of the half. And Matt LaFleur kind of getting everybody charged up. I've heard mixed opinions on that. Some people going, oh, it's a stupid penalty. Should have never done it. You heard Matt respond and say, yeah, I preach. You gotta be responsible. And what was the word he said? You got to be able to control your emotions. I preach that to the players. I didn't do it. I guarantee you, though, those guys in that locker room, when they see Matt go crazy because the official wouldn't grant him that timeout, even if it wasn't all of them, Tim, there was a multitude of players on that sideline that said, you know what? If he's that fired up, what the hell are we doing? You seen Jaden Reed score the touchdown. He jumps up, runs across the field, gets the crowd back into it. It's just it was cool to see them rally. Jaden Reed, that was brought up to Matt LaFleur as well. And his comment on him was like, he's like that all the time.
Yep.
He's just always picking up the energy. Dude's a leader, man. Second year in the league, too. Just wild. So.
He really is. I mean, Bird is the man, dude. And we talk about the physical attributes. We talk about his skill set as a receiver, as a flyer, jet sweeps, yo-yo motion, zipper motion, whatever we want to call it, orbit motion, flexed into the slot, flexed out wide. That's great. But, Jaden Reed is a leader, like you just said. And it's a mindset, when you approach every game with, that do or die mentality, that's contagious. And I think even when your team is struggling, you see a guy like Bird laying it all out on the field, you pick everyone up next to you and around you by doing that. And you're right. Seeing Matt LaFleur fired up just like everyone else was, that was great. Maybe he lost his composure a little bit there, but hey, we all understand that it's justifiable, right? Guy's trying to get a timeout for his team. And, players are going to respect a coach like that, that's going to live and die for his players. Much like I always talk about with Mike Tomlin out in Pittsburgh. Mike Tomlin has been coaching this team for many, many years, and they're always in the mix. And that's a guy that will go to war for his players. And those guys want to play for him. And it's nice to see Matt LaFleur kind of cut from that same cloth here in Green Bay, little fire and brimstone. I love it.
Definitely. Coach Lynn says the last touchdown to Wicks was a dime, man. The way he threaded the needle and stood tall in the pocket. Emmanuel Wilson bouncing back, getting that pass protection last second. I believe it was Emmanuel Wilson, that had that. J-Lo started to settle in, man. They were battling for each other, no doubt about it.
Yep.
I like what J. Cole says. I enjoyed Love's Brett Favre's game. I don't know if you're being sarcastic or not, Jay, but I really did. Like, it brought back memories, Tim. I don't want our quarterback to turn the football over. Don't get me wrong. But, man, there were some damn fun games back in the day when Ford was out there. He'd go out and throw 2 first-half interceptions and come out in the second half, throw 4 tutters, and they'd win. It was just like, what just happened? I need a drink. It's awesome, man.
This receiving is tough.
So, yeah, I hope you were being serious, Jay, but I really did. I enjoyed it, man. I actually did. So, here was Jordan Love earlier just talking about, how he felt today and how everything's progressing. Matt Schneiden tweeted this out from the locker room.
Yeah, I mean, I'd definitely rather not get hit on the leg for sure. But like I said before, that's one of those things, question marks going into the game. How would it feel getting hit, getting twisted, things like that. I think I came out of the game fine. And obviously it's going to be a little sore for the games and whatnot. But I'm definitely, I like where my knee's at coming out of the game. And, like you said, we can just probably go for it. But try and limit those hits as much as possible.
Seems like he's in great spirits there, Tim, for sure. I think he's going to be just fine. I got some other news, too, across the board here. It was interesting. Well, first of all, let me back up. We were talking about the offense and how well they're playing. Through week 4 now, the Packers are still leading the league in explosive plays. They've now got 21 rushing plays that clipped either 10 yards or more, and they have 17 passing plays that clipped 20 yards or more. So that's a combined big play total or explosive play total of 38. They lead the San Francisco 49ers by 4 right now. Baltimore has 33, Colts has 32, and the Lions have 30. So everything looking up there. Now, also, Matt Schneiden tweeted out, Matt LaFleur indicates Christian Watson won't go on IR. Quote, I think we got lucky. We dodged a real bullet there. Still waiting for more info to see if Davante White will be as fortunate. And then, obviously, a little bit later, Tom Silverstein tweeted out, LaFleur said they would know more about defensive tackle Davante Wyatt's ankle injury in the next couple of days, but he's hoping that he isn't an IR situation either. So we may have dodged a bullet with both of those guys, but the fact that we dodged that one with Christian Watson for sure is great news. Jordan Love was actually asked about it. I want to get your take on it here. Let's play this video right quick. This was from Ryan Wood in the locker room earlier today. And he tweeted out, Jordan Love shares his perspective on Christian Watson's injury Sunday, his disappointment for putting his receiver in a bad position, and relief learning he won't be out long-term. Quote, I'm glad it was just an ankle and nothing too serious, so he'll be back. I love that he's showing accountability, taking responsibility for the throw. But here's what Jay Love had to say about that hospital ball we've talked about so much to Christian Watson.
Yeah, it was tough. It was so I saw it when it happened. It didn't look good. And, I was definitely upset that I put him in that position to get hit. So it's tough. But he'll bounce back. He'll be back for sure. But yeah, I went right over after, and I think we were all praying that it wasn't something very serious. And glad it's just ankle, nothing too serious. So he'll be back. But it sucks. But it's that mindset, next man up. We got a deep receiver room, and a lot of those guys have had tons of reps and game experience. So confident they'll be ready.
Love the accountability.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, Clay. Because it's not Jordan that put him in that position, right? He's running a route. He's got an assignment. Minnesota's secondary put him in that position, basically. And, you can't fault Jordan for trying to make a play there in a game where we're getting our asses kicked, like he's trying to thread the needle. And a lot of credit to Scoot for hanging in there and trying to make a play on that ball. Like we said before, a lot of guys maybe would have quit on that route, seeing that coverage over the top. But he didn't. And, it's nice to see QB1 kind of taking a little bit of the responsibility there. Kind of, he didn't have to throw that ball. We talked about a check down to Jacobs on that play. We talked about, maybe throwing it away or maybe wiggling out of there, things like that. But hey, you want a quarterback that's going to try and make plays, and you want receivers that are going to lay it all out there and try and make plays for your team. And, like you said, Clay, we dodged a lot of bullets here. Luckily it wasn't the shoulder with Davante Wyatt. It's just an ankle. He kind of tweaked an ankle there on that play. Luckily, Scoot is not going to IR. It's a high ankle sprain. We'll see how he is week to week. And luckily, Jordan Love did not have any setbacks in this game. Like he said, hey, it was nice to kind of get hit, kind of move around, see what, how this knee is really looking. And, I don't think he had a setback. So that's a huge win on all three of those fronts when it comes to the injuries. And, like Jay Money said, man, it's next man up regardless. We have depth on this roster for a reason. Goody has put together this squad, and, I trust this team, and next man up is the mentality. And I believe any given Sunday, somebody can step up and make plays for this team, as we've seen really in the last couple of weeks, both sides of the ball. So, there's no reason to panic right now, Packer fans. It's a tough loss to a divisional opponent, but the season is still well within reach. And, I still believe we're a playoff team. And as long as you get in, you got a chance to win. That's all that matters.
Yeah, definitely. Coach Lynn in the chat said, I can see Watson playing this weekend. Coach, I have to respectfully disagree. I personally don't think he will. I don't think there's a chance, but man, you've given me some hope. I hope I'm wrong there, because that would be awesome if he, and again, I'm sure you agree, playing unlimited too, right? Like
right.
Going out healthy, that would be absolutely wild if we could pull that off. Because man, it looked like a crime scene out there on that throw and catch.
Yep.
It really did.
And you feel good about the depth. Like I just said, we got Bo Melton coming up. We've got Malik Heath. Malik Heath is a guy that's able to do a lot of the things that Scoot was doing, in the run game, blocking and things like that, willing to do the dirty work. And Malik Heath is a dog when it comes to being a possession receiver. He's another guy you can look to on, 3rd and 5, 3rd and 8 kind of scenario, and send him on a route, and he's going to come up with that football. And obviously we know Bo Melton, that guy's got some wheels and he's got good hands. He's been a work in progress these last couple of years, but he's really stepped up. So, if we need to give Scoot a rest, going out to LA, I think we should. But, I'm with Coach Len, man. I got a feeling that Scoot's a dog, and he's going to want to go. They're going to have to handcuff that guy to the locker to get him not to play on Sunday. So we'll see what happens.
It'd be awesome if he was out there, man. No doubt.
Yep.
Donovan Schilling in the chat says, just got here. Why we doing an early episode? And he went on to say, we get Adams back, ? Exclamation point.
Here's
So
the guy.
first of all, the early show, I got plans tonight. So rather than just skip the show altogether, I tried to rush home, and we did a little bit earlier show to give y'all some content and just give you some injury updates, things like that. So I apologize for the inconvenience. We'll be back normal time tomorrow. Everything should shake back out. Been kind of a wacky week and a half, with the weather and everything, and just getting everything settled in. And so, yeah. But as far as we getting Adams back, I was waiting for people to bring it up, Tim. Davante Adams sounds like he's on the trade block. I don't see any chance that Davante Adams could end up back in Green Bay. I mean, you got a receiver room that's pretty well loaded, and with young talent, cheap talent, right? That's the big thing. If you go out and get Davante Adams, let's say you did. Let's say you had to trade one of your wide receivers and say a second-round pick for him. How many years are you going to have him? A year, 2 years? And you're going to be eating up a ton of salary cap. Also, it's going to take reps away from some of these younger guys. That's kind of the blueprint of how we're going to be able to compete over the next 2 to 5 years. Is as it sits right now, we're saving so much money with the wide receiver room. And some people are going, well, that's going to change 2 years from now. It will, but keep in mind, when you're getting this kind of production from the receivers that are really, really cheap now, that cap space you're saving is rolling over.
Yep.
If you go get Davante Adams, you're eating up that cap right now. Now, listen, Tay's still Tay. There's no two ways about it. But I thought this was cool, too, and I want to get your take, Tim. I think I know what your take's going to be, but check this out. Andrew Brandt, who used to work for the Packers, right, he tweeted this out. I thought this was really interesting. He said, Davante Adams or any trade, know that when teams are linked, that doesn't mean genuine interest. I remember agents asking me, quote, so this is the player agent asking a team executive, all right, can I tell the media the Packers are interested in my player? I'm like, Andrew Brandt says, I'm like, quote, if that drives up the price for another team has to pay, knock yourself out. So that's why you hear all these rumors. And, boy, let me tell you, Tim, Green Bay is always in the mix for a player, aren't they? It seems like, yeah, the Packers were in talks for that player. And fans get so upset, but that's what's going on in the league. Whether you're really interested in signing him or not, showing interest gets these other teams antsy, and if they really want him, they're going to drive up the price. So,
Yeah.
what do you think about that? Now, first of all, do you think Tay's coming back to Green Bay?
No.
And second, what do you think of that comment there?
No, I do not think Tay's coming back to Green Bay for all the reasons we just listed. And I love Andrew Brandt. That's great. That's classic. It's a little bit of gamesmanship that you see between the front offices and the agents that are representing these players. Let's be real. Tay wants out of Vegas. It's kind of been a little bit of a dumpster fire these last few weeks. Even going back to last season, we saw the receiver documentary on Netflix, right? He wanted to get the hell out of there before he gets killed.
He was not happy.
Yeah, and he's definitely not happy now. But I got to be honest, man. I think if he's going to go anywhere, obviously, probably the Jets would fork over some money and some picks to get him there with Aaron. Otherwise, I think maybe Washington Commanders or
what about Kansas City, man?
I was thinking that with Rashee Rice going down. Also, Dallas, the Cowboys are another team looking for a receiver like that. So
opposite CD land, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, I can think of, like I said, 3 to 4 to 5 teams before Green Bay that'll probably end up, bringing Tay Adams in on some kind of a trade scenario. But I will tell you this. It would be nice to have him back in Green Bay, I think if we would have saw Scoot going to IR after what happened on Sunday, we might be scratching our heads and kind of saying, hey, there's a chance. But I think the fact that, Scoot's not on IR and we're so deep in the receiver room, I just really don't think there's a chance that Tay's coming back to Green Bay.
Yeah, so everybody sit up straight. We got Mrs. Green in the house here. She says the next time Adams will be in Green Bay is when he's added to the Packers Hall of Fame.
Heard it from a fan right here.
That's right, Mrs. G. Thank you. That's so true.
And
I look forward to being there, too, when he's inducted,
Yeah, no doubt, man. And J. Cole did correct or did specify, I'm late, but no sarcasm, Clayton. I enjoyed the game. I really did, too, man.
Yeah.
And I hear Packer fans complaining, and it's like, enjoy the ride, gang. Like, you wait all year for football season to get here, and then you spend football season just trying to find something to complain about. We need to fire this guy. We got to fire this coach. We got to cut that player. We need to get him out of here. What are we doing? It's like, people are miserable. Enjoy the ride. We could talk about it, but you sound like you need to take a laxative. I ain't gonna lie, man. You sound like you're a little clogged up. Like, chill out. Everything's okay. Let's see here. We already hit Donovan Schillings. R.E. Iron Miner says, I see parallels between last year's season beginning, penalties, Jordan scrapping back in the second half. Team is not firing yet. They will. I completely agree, Iron Miner. It feels a lot like last year. I kind of feel like we're a couple steps ahead of where we were starting last year, too, because we were still uncertain about Jordan, obviously. Early in the year last year too, Tim. And this kind of goes hand in hand right here with some questions in our Patreon group. Appreciate everybody in there contributing and being a part of that awesome community. Randy Cleaver says, is it just me or does this look similar to the start of the season last year? Tim, it really feels a lot like it, don't it?
Yeah, it sure does. And especially with, the second half comebacks, we can look back at tape from last year and see a lot of those games that we thought we were out and came back and fought and lost by a score. It's very reminiscent of last year, which tells you that Matt LaFleur coach teams have never say die mentality. And even going down 28-0 in the first quarter, nobody quit. And, it makes you feel good with a young football team because usually, it's the opposite in that scenario. You got to coach guys up and you got to fire guys up and try and keep their heads in the game. Our guys are not wired that way. And these guys are playing for each other, win or lose, ups or downs, being up by 28 or down by 28. It doesn't matter. They're going to rally together and try and get that dub. And you got to respect that. So, it does. Early, like you said, the season's 4 quarters. Finishing up this first quarter of this season does feel a lot like the first quarter of last season for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Fractal of God in the Patreon chat said, looks very similar, Randy. Let's hope it finishes even better than last season. Amen to that. Anthony in the chat says, they will be fine. I think they have a good opportunity to win the next 4. Got to clean up the penalties. Penalties are a big thing. I feel like it got a little better this past week. I could be wrong. I don't even know what the penalty total was the week before, but you got 4 penalties on one drive, and I think you finished with 6 penalties total. So it's like you could remove just the mistakes on that one drive. You come away with only 2 penalties. I feel like it's getting better. I do. Nick McSwain, I keep hearing people talk about orbit motion way more than just regular pre-snap motion. Is there something special about the specific motion that makes it different from others? What exactly does it accomplish? Great question, Nick. So what orbit motion accomplishes, it's several different things. If you'll notice defenses, whether you're in man coverage or zone, if you're in man, you'll notice a defender will follow that motion over, right? So they'll kind of follow the motion across the formation if you're in man. And then if you orbit out, meaning with orbit motion, you're going to go around the quarterback, right? So when you go around the quarterback, now you have to, as a defense, take just a split second to hesitate. Are they getting the ball out of the backfield? Because essentially what you're doing is, especially when you're in the gun, and most of the time, pretty much every time you're in the gun or a pistol, what you're creating is that threat to have a dual sidecar, a double fake. There's a lot of different things you can do. You can also create momentum on a swing pass, right? There's just a ton of different things you can do. That reverse orbit motion that we seen the other day, I think it was with Bo Melton, that was really interesting. That's the first time I can remember seeing that. I'm sure I'd seen it before. But as far as what makes it different from others, regular motion, you go across the formation, right? You're kind of close to the line of scrimmage. You don't have that threat to run the football. That's the biggest thing for me, right? And then the other thing too is if you do orbit motion and there's not really a threat to give you the ball, or even if there is a threat to give you the ball, you've got a lot more momentum. You ever watch the Arena League? I know Coach Lynn's familiar, right? The way they would get a run and go, the rules would allow them to get a run and go and sprint off the line. It sounds silly, but when you're using cheat motion and even orbit motion, it allows your receivers, your running backs, whoever's in the orbit motion to get a lot more momentum. So think about a cornerback. They're sitting still, and you got a guy who's already building up speed. They're up, even if they're running horizontally, they're getting up the top speed, and the corner's starting from just a dead stop. Yep. That makes sense, Dan. I feel like that's the biggest difference between orbit and other motions, though, is obviously orbit, for those of you who don't know, it's motion where a receiver will go behind the quarterback, behind the backfield, rather than in front of it. So
the only thing I would add to that is the other caveat is, like you said, the defensive backs are looking at that and they're kind of flat-footed, or they're shuffling their feet. They're trying to adjust, and they don't know, is this guy going to go hot, or is he going to stay back and block? Is he going to catch a toss? Is he going to run up the A gap? Is he going to leak out and catch a swing pass? Is he going to run straight up the sideline on a go route? I mean, there's so many variables when you add that orbit, especially with a guy like Jaden Reed, who we've seen done this, numerous times. Bo Melton is another guy I love seeing in orbit motion. So that's something that definitely adds a little more flair to your offense. And a lot of times Matt LaFleur uses it strictly as deception. It may drag a safety or a corner off his assignment and make him account for that guy in the backfield, which frees up enough for someone to run a dig or, dagger concept that we've seen a lot of times, even a post route, things like that. So orbit motion is something in the last 2 years we've really seen peppered in a lot more in this Matt LaFleur offense. And I love every second of it, honestly, because I think we have the personnel to execute for sure.
Definitely. Coach Lynn says orbit motion's layered, affects the backers and the safety. So think about it. If you're in man coverage, you got to follow that guy over, right?
Yep.
That's going to affect them there. But if you're in zone and you're running orbit motion as well, the backers and the safeties have still got to communicate, because everything changes. Again, with the threat of running too, like your gap integrity may change, your gap responsibility, I should say. There's a lot of things that come into play. And like Coach said, man, it's going to affect the safeties as well. All motion does, obviously, but orbit it's really unique, man. I like the fact that Matt's got that wrinkle added into his offense for sure. Let's see here. Sandy Lane Packer, Fractal of God, said, is it fair to say we don't have a pass rusher in the team? I understand we've been having different looks in order to keep opposing quarterbacks in the pocket, but my question is, do we currently have a true pass rusher? Yes, we have several, actually. Rashawn Gary, again,
yep.
I'm so exhausted having the conversation. Rashawn Gary is not playing elite. There's no two ways about that. But the fact that people are ready to get rid of Rashawn Gary when, first of all, the dead cap will be through the freaking roof, and second of all, statistically, he's your best pass rusher. Like, again, we talked about the injury. He hasn't been the same since the injury. There's no two ways about that. It was funny listening to Mark Tauscher and Jason Wilde go back and forth on it earlier today. Mark really giving Wilde a rough time because Wilde's one of these people that's at the forefront that Gary needs to be doing more. Gary needs to be doing more. And I'm going, bro, watch the tape. Like when people say that, I want to ask them, have you watched it? Have you watched every one of his snaps? Are you seeing how and he said a tight end stonewalled him. A tight end hit him and stopped him dead in his tracks. And it's like, do you think that Gary couldn't run through that tight end if he wanted to? That's a chip.
Yeah.
We've
seen him do it. We've seen it on tape. We've seen him get to the next level and then have to deal with the right tackle. I mean, it's just.
And he's having to engage, shed, reset, engage again, shed. And if he goes full speed and goes, you know what, I'm going to peel this tight end's cap. If he falls down, guess what? Everybody's roasting Gary because he didn't set the edge.
Yep.
Like, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills here, and some people who do this for a living continue to complain. I'm like, you're not even watching the tape. You're just regurgitating what everyone else is saying. You go, we need sacks. We got to get more sacks. Gary's the problem. Gary's the problem.
And you're not watching tape, and you're not seeing him getting chipped, double teamed and chipped, and then still being the first to the quarterback. We saw that in Chalk Talk last night several times.
Over and over and over. The goal line stand there. He makes the tackle on Aaron Jones. It's like there's a reason that PFF is like in that game, he kind of graded out a little bit better than most of the other pass rushers. It's like Coach Lynn says, Gary's doing his jobs. He's doing a much better job of containing and playing the run.
Yes.
And again, when a team goes off and they rush for 180, like Raheem Mostert, what's everybody saying? This run defense sucks. We're horrible, right? Well, it's probably because Clay Matthews and those guys were really turning it loose. They were being too aggressive. Like it's give and take. It's
like Coach Len just said. Gary's doing his job. He's not breaking contain and playing the run better. What did we see last year? We saw over pursuit. We saw Rashawn kind of getting to that backfield and almost getting around the edge and behind the quarterback, rushing too deep. And we saw guys, like Mr. DeVito last year running all over us because of over pursuit. And I think this year, Rashawn's kind of made it a point of emphasis to get pressure, but also to not break contain and not allow these big runs up the gut. And, we're seeing it a few weeks in. And, when it comes to Fractal of God's comment here, is it fair to say
this isn't a shot at Fractal of God?
No, it's not.
He's not the only one saying this.
No. And it's true because we're not getting, those pressures that we'd like to get or the sacks that we'd like to see, other than the Tennessee game when we had 8. That was great. But, there's guys besides Rashawn Gary that come to mind. I think of LVN. LVN is an absolute beast among men. And, he's a pass rusher. I think JJ Enigbare is a freak of nature. That guy is a pass rusher. And, you look at some of these guys coming out of our secondary. We saw on Sunday, Keyshawn Nixon is a pass rusher when we dial it up. Javon Bullard is a pass rusher when we dial it up. So, I think to answer, his question there, I do. I think we have plenty of pass rush on this defense. It's just a matter of scheming guys in a position to make those plays. We've even seen it with Preston Smith. He's kind of the old dog on this defense, but, he's still getting penetration and getting back into the backfield. Great first moves, things like that. So, I wouldn't panic too much as far as the pass rush goes. I think it's more of, what Coach Half and Coach Campanelli and these guys are trying to do with our defense when it comes to, are we rushing 4? Are we sending a 5th, maybe a 6th here and there? At the end of the day, we want to get home with 4 and, play straight up and win these matchups. So I do. I think we have plenty of pass rush. It's just a matter of time before we get that right formula.
Yeah, I'm going to come back to the Patreon chat here again. I want to finish hitting those up as we get ready to wrap up the show here. But Coach Lynn says all the other D-line are getting more sacks because of Gary. That's according to LVN himself on the side. Now, Coach, LVN doesn't know what he's talking about. Joe Schmo from Kokomo, though, let me tell you, he understands. Or like I said, the beat writer that's never played football, he understands.
Here's the guy.
Like, it just drives me insane. And the thing that bothers me is, like, they're running them through the ringer, and then they go talk to them in an interview, and it's like they didn't say anything.
Right.
So, it's like it's so I don't know, it just makes me cringe. I don't know. Maybe I'm weird like that. I don't know. But I want to point this out real quick. This is according to Next Gen Stats, and this is on NFL Pro. You can go look it up yourself. This isn't something I came up with myself here, okay? This is the Green Bay Packers quarterback pressure percentage, pressure rate. Who's leading the team? Rashawn Gary at 10.9%. Now, is that lower than he usually is? Absolutely. But you know what? Preston Smith's is lower. Kenny's is lower. Everybody's is lower. That should tell you they're doing something different with the pass rush to try to keep the quarterback in the pocket. And I'm telling you, every game is different. It's just amazing. In Tennessee, I was there for that game. It was sack after sack after sack. That whole day on Twitter, when we got back to the hotel, you'd have thought this was the fearsome foursome from the freaking 70s, the 60s and 70s. Like, it was best pass rush ever. We got 8 sacks that day. And then all of a sudden, we only come away with 2 sacks in this game against 2 great tackles. And even with those great tackles, they're chipping the hell out of Rashawn Gary and Preston Smith. Like, to me, the bigger issue is in the middle. Got to get the big hog mollies off the blocks in the middle while Rashawn Gary's getting chipped like that. But again,
we saw that with the TT twists and things that we're trying to run at the line, right. And guys are running into each other, getting washed out of plays. I mean, it comes down to execution, right?
Yeah. Fractal of God, whose comment we're actually responding to, he comes in the chat and says, "Have I missed the kicker talk yet?" Good to see you in here, buddy. So let's get back to the Patreon questions. We'll get ready to wrap this thing up real quick. But I just wanted to hit on that and show that that's what the numbers currently are, right? Rashawn Gary is leading the team in pressure rate right now. So we just got to go a little bit easier there. Let's see. Fractal of God also said, to me, it's a product of our recruitment policy of young Greek godlike athletes as opposed to player-specific recruitment with the skill set needed. I agree with that to a certain extent. I think that we do put a little too much focus on these athletic freaks, right? That's again, that's just how I see it. Fractal of God went on.
I agree with that. I think Goody's mentality is, if you hit upside, on a couple of these, right? Yeah, high upside, right? Little to no ceiling. You might swing and miss, and that's fine. We've done it before. We'll probably do it again, but every once in a while, you get yourself an LVN or you get yourself a Rashawn Gary, and you feel really good about it. But I agree. There's a lot of logic to that mentality that, we need to be drafting football players, not just athletes.
Yeah, definitely. And Fractal of God said, why isn't our defense more violent at a contact? I'm not sure if I understand the question completely. If you're talking about tackling the ball carrier, I don't watch this defense and go, they're not violent enough. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm giving them too much grace here, Tim. But as far as the pass rush, there are times I noticed there. I pointed it out with Kingsley and Igbare on Chalk Talk last night. You can see Igbare isn't turning it loose and trying to necessarily just scorch the edge. They can get by the tackles, guys, but they're going to take themselves out of their rush lanes. And the other thing, too, is Sam Darnold was getting the ball out pretty freaking quick, too. I don't know if you noticed that, but it was he just literally completed his drop. It felt like it was no more than 3.5 seconds. The ball was coming out. And when you're playing man coverage and the receivers have 6 yards of separation, that's like shooting fish in a barrel.
That's the number one MO that any offense in the National Football League is. They're going to respond to blitzes and heavy pass rush by getting the ball out, or they're going to try and run you out of it, extend the plays. And what can you do when you got a guy that, 2 or 3 step drop and firing that ball, hammering those digs or hammering the swing pass or the check down? Your pass rush is irrelevant. You can send 6, send 7 all day. It doesn't matter. The ball's going to get out quick, and you're going to get lit up in that short pass game. So I think it's a testament to, Jeff Hafley and what we're trying to do on this defense, which is play aggressive, play downhill, but, play within the scheme and be aware of the down and distance and situations. And, it's easy to look at film and see a guy, maybe it looks like he's half-assing it off the snap, but in reality, he's doing his job and he's maintaining the edge, maintaining his rush lanes, keeping guys, where they need to be and not getting, in a situation where you're over pursuing. Sometimes that's by design. Sometimes you may be firing a linebacker or a nickel behind that, and you don't need guys crashing into each other. You've got to kind of stutter that pass rush a little bit. So I think we just got to be patient and also realize, like I said last night, man, it's a week-to-week game. Every game plan is different. We're not going to, there's a huge reason why we got, 8 sacks against the Titans and we looked like we did against Minnesota, right? Those are not the same offensive lines. It's not the same scheme and game plan going into those matchups. And going out to LA to face the Rams, I'm sure we're going to have a different mindset and a different game plan going there. So, it's real easy to kind of think that there's a one-dimensional approach when it comes to defense, but I assure you guys it's not. It changes every week.
Yeah, definitely. I was trying to find a tweet to answer this next question. I'm going to go way over if we ain't careful, but I can't find it. I had the all the third down snaps for Rashawn Gary. We watched it on the show to explain this next question after this one. But Nick McSwain says, kind of building on Fractal's comments here, I've heard they're not getting production because they're trying to keep the quarterback in the pocket. But is that really a reason to barely affect the quarterback at all? Darnold had all day in the pocket. I didn't think he had all day, personally. I didn't feel like he was back there going 1, 2, 3. Do I want to scramble? There was a couple plays that happened, but for the most part, I seen that guy getting to his second, no further than his second read, and the ball was coming out, and they were cooking DBs. So that's just me personally. Now, obviously, you had to change it up. You realize real quick, Tim, well, not quick enough, you can't get pressure with 4 when you got 2 stud tackles and you're chipping your best pass rusher. Yep. The byproduct of that should be another guy should get freed up. That's what Coach Lynn was pointing out against Tennessee. That's what kind of happened. Just got to reset this week. You should be able to get some pressure this week, no doubt about it. The problem is you got Matt Stafford and Sean McVay. They know there's not going to be much time, right? So they're going to be looking to get that ball out for sure.
It's going to be a hell of a game, man. These are 2 teams that desperately need a win right now. And, an NFC matchup that, for all intents and purposes, again, these games all have playoff implications, especially for us. We just dropped the divisional at home. We need to get right on the road, and the Rams need to get right at home, man. They've been playing not great football. They're banged up on both sides of the ball. So it's going to be a great matchup on Sunday for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I still can't believe, I know I had that tweet put out there, but it is gone. Don't see it anywhere. So this was the question I wanted to answer with it. Fractal of God said, can I ask you to explain what getting chipped by a player means, please, guys? Yeah, so chipped is real simple, man. Rashawn Gary, let's use Rashawn Gary, for instance. You go watch, he's getting chipped. As of last week, he's being chipped 5th most in the league at 20%. He was tied for 5th, okay? And what it essentially means is you got this edge coming off, or this defensive end or outside linebacker coming off the edge, right? Tackle's responsibility to block them. You'll put a tight end over there to basically ball snap. The tight end's going to, bam, they're going to nail Gary, knock him off his route, and then the tackle's going to pick him up. So essentially a chip is a double team with a tackle and a tight end or a running back. You'll have a running back sitting there too. Sometimes a running back will motion up, come to the wing set, ball snap. You'll see the tackle fade back, get his set. The back will hit him in the shoulder, knock him off. So you're getting all the momentum out of him, off balance, and now the tackle absorbs the pass rush. What it's basically saying is the fact that Rashawn Gary is being chipped 5th most in the league, more than Myles Garrett, by the way. Keep that in mind. For the people that think Rashawn Gary is not a pass rusher, he's getting more attention from NFL offensive coordinators in chipping than Myles freaking Garrett.
And what is the number one goal of an offense when they're chipping an edge rusher? They're trying to take away that first move. Right. It tells you a lot about how deadly Rashawn is off the ball, whether it's a swat and swim, whether it's a dip and rip, or whatever he's trying to do. by adding that running back or that tight end, chipping him, they're trying to take that away from him. And, we've seen it on tape with Rashawn. He still fights through it and he still finds a way to get home. A lot of times the ball's already out, but, there's a never say die mentality when it comes to Bane Gary, and whether it's a double team or a chip, he's going to find his way through it. And you just hope the rest of that line can do their job and meet at the quarterback. But I really think that's the ultimate goal, right? Of an offense is, you see a guy like that, you want to just take away that first option, that first move, because a lot of times, if you're one-on-one with Rashawn, that first move is what beats you, and he's rallying to the ball. And, that's what you're trying to take away with a chipping tight end or a running back.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I could probably get this to pull up real quick just to show, but we got all the obviously we got all the questions in, but man, I can't believe I can't find that tweet. It is driving me crazy because it was a perfect example on that third down. I think what was it? There was 5 of the 10 snaps. I had it charted too. Yeah, here's the chart anyway. So it was 10 snaps for Rashawn Gary, okay? One of those 10, he was in coverage. He actually dropped into coverage, all right? And these are just all third down snaps. He was chipped twice, okay? So on the plays where he was just single blocked, there were 5 of the 10 plays that we showed of third down snaps where he was single blocked one-on-one. 4 of those 5 plays ended up being incomplete passes, 2 of which Rashawn Gary had a hand in the throwing lane of the quarterback. You could see him affecting Sam Darnold.
So what does that tell you? That tells you that teams have to double Rashawn, or they have to account for that presence over there on the line. And at the very least, they got to chip him. We saw him throwing Aaron Jones out there on a lot of plays, left and right side of the line, trying to chip our edge guys. They used Jones to chip in Igbari, and they used them at least once or twice to try and chip Rashawn as well.
Yeah, definitely. So again, shout out to everyone who provided, like I said, questions in the Patreon group. Appreciate y'all being a part of it. If you want to join our Patreon group, scan the QR code in the upper right. That'll send you to patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. And obviously, if you're a member of one of those 3 tiers on Patreon, that'll also get you entered into the giveaways when we do a memorabilia giveaway. The next giveaway is going to be the autographed Mark Murphy picture that was donated by Trevor, that he autographed, obviously, his name and signed it 65%. Which
65%.
65%. That's what going to be probably my favorite piece of memorabilia that I've gotten in a long time, Tim. I love it. Love it. Just the wherewithal to know, hey, look, we got to make this happen.
And Mark Murphy being the cool dude he is, signing that, I love it. It's classic.
He's awesome. I'm going to miss that dude. I really am.
Yep.
Couple other things here real quick in the chat. Coach Lynn, watching all 22 and seeing the ball jump out of Love's hand is amazing. He is truly a gifted thrower of the football. Man, that crossbody in the Eagles game to Jaden Reed on the sideline was absolutely sick.
It's almost like this guy played behind Aaron Rodgers for a couple of years.
Okay.
Maybe picked up a thing or two.
Yeah, speaking of Aaron Rodgers, Donovan Schilling, great segue, Tim. Donovan Schilling says, do we still have dead cap from Rodgers? Random but curious. No, we don't. The way dead cap works is if a player is not on your roster, all of that cap that was allocated, whether it be in voidable years or however you restructure the contract, it accelerates to the current year once they're off your roster. So, and that's kind of a way to keep teams from dragging out cap and really salary like baseball. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Bobby Bonilla deal. If you guys have ever heard of that,
still getting checks.
Classic. I think it actually ended last year. Tim.
Oh, did it? Was that his last one?
And he signed that deal when I was in middle school, if I remember.
Yep.
Like, it's just wild. And if you guys, this isn't a baseball podcast, but just Google Bobby Bonilla historic deal. I guarantee you to give you all the details. They paid on that thing for a couple of decades. It was like a mortgage. But yeah, to answer your question, no, Rodgers is not on the cap this year. Now, Bakhtiari is, because again, this is the first year he's not on the roster. So that accelerates any voidable years. What I mean by that is, let's say you tacked on 3 voidable years and the player only plays 2 of those years. Well, when you cut him that year, the cap penalty for that year obviously is still counts against your cap. But that voidable year that you push that money out, it accelerates to the current year. So you have to get that off the books by the next full season, if that makes sense. And
Yep.
Ari Ironminer, we'll end it with this, Tim. He says, still have kicker PTSD. So, I tell you, man, we talked about it. Everybody was calling for Anders to be cut. Like, I said it with Joe Barry, too. Like, be careful what you wish for.
Yep.
Because it doesn't necessarily mean things are going to be good out the gate. I think Jeff Hafley has an opportunity to be a much better DC than Joe Barry. I think we would all agree there. But right now, the reality is we've dropped in points allowed. We've dropped in passing yards per attempt. And we've gotten slightly better at rushing yards per attempt, if I remember correctly. That's the only thing we improved on. That and turnovers. Turnovers is huge. But as far as giving up points, man, we Donovan Schilling summed it up right here, Tim. Fire Joe Barry. # fire Joe Barry. I love saying it on Twitter, too. When people randomly complain about Jeff Hafley, I just hit # fire Joe Barry. That's my.
I think it's a testament to a first-year coordinator, right? Coming in here and, there's a couple of things like you mentioned that we're excelling at and things have improved. And then there's some things that have stayed the same or gotten a little bit worse. We're only a quarter of the way through this season. The ceiling is higher, I think, with Jeff Hafley. We did the 3-year experiment with Joe and, kind of a lot of the same, and it was time to make a change. So we have to be patient. That doesn't mean we have to, put up with mediocrity or put up with our defense, but it just means we have to be patient. And I, for one, I'll take the trade-off. I love this ball hawking defense. We've had a turnover in every single game. We've got our boy, X has got a pick in every single game, and hopefully the trend continues. You want your guys on defense, ball hawking, rallying to the ball carrier. And, I was a huge defender of Joe Barry. You guys know that. You can watch pods from last season. But one thing that's different between Jeff Hafley and Joe Barry is the emphasis on getting after that damn football. And we're seeing it only 4 games into this season. Yeah, we're 2-2. But, you look at these turnovers and you look at the way these guys are rallying to the ball carrier, there is a new regime in this defense. And it's going to take time to get where we want to be, but things are looking up. So just be patient, guys. It's coming.
Yep. And there's the team takeaways per game. Green Bay is still leading the league at 3 takeaways per game, looks like. I'm assuming that's been updated. It says October 3rd. So, we should be good there. Minnesota second at 2.5. Obviously, we helped them with that number last week.
Yeah.
No doubt about that. I wonder if so again, that was turnovers. I wanted to see about red zone. Do you see, let's go scoring defense. And I wanted to see about red zone. Where are we at here? Here we go. Okay. So red zone scoring attempts per game. All right. Let's see where we're at there. Defensively, the red zone defense, not been good, 25th. If you get that, coupled with the fact that you're leading the league in kind of turnovers, man, look out. That's when you're going to get some really, really good results on the defensive side of the ball. And again, the big thing there is, how I feel, it's points and turnovers. Those are the 2 most important things. Got to improve on the points. And obviously keep the turnover thing going. Thank God for Xavier McKinney, which, by the way, this is pretty cool. Wes Hodkowitz tweeted this out. The last time a Packers player had a streak of 4 straight INTs was Nick Collins in 2009. Collins was named an All-Pro and Pro Bowler, finishing with 6 interceptions on the year. So only got 2 more the rest of the year, but still made All-Pro and was a Pro Bowler. Xavier McKinney, dude, he's the leader of that defense, Tim. It's not Rashawn Gary. It's not Kenny Clark. It's not, Jair Alexander. Xavier McKinney, he's leading by example. That's the dude. I personally think I would like to see him wear the green dot and take something else off Quay's plate so Quay can continue to build off of. I felt like he played a little bit better last week. I really do. So,
for sure. Shout out to Nick the Pick also, for sure. Man, I miss Nick Collins, man. Love that jersey you got in the background.
Right there. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I'll never
That's
forget.
your favorite 36s, right? We got Leroy and we got Nick the Pick. I love it.
I went to his very first game as a rookie, and Bethune-Cookman College was like, man, who is this kid, right? Second round pick.
Yep.
And I remember me and Mandy were just dating. We might have been engaged. Let's see, that would have been, I think we were engaged. I should know that. Hopefully she's not watching the show. But I remember first couple snaps on defense, and I looked over and I was like, 36 is the fastest player on the field right now. And you're talking about your very first game in the NFL. It was the first home game. I'm pretty sure it was the first game of the season that year too. But he was so damn fast, him. It was just like, and he was boxy, like he was built like a smaller linebacker almost. You know what I'm saying? Like it was like this dude, he did not look like a rookie at all. He was so quick. You talk about instincts. God,
phenomenal.
It breaks my damn heart that he had that injury because he would be in the Hall of Fame. There's no doubt in my mind.
For sure, 100%. And, you know, a lot like you just said about Xavier McKinney being the leader of this defense. I mean, you look back to those Packer teams that we were just talking about. You had Clay Matthews, you had A.J. Hawk. But who did you have? You had Charles Woodson. And there was no doubt in anyone's mind that Woody was the leader of that defense. And, you know, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Xavier McKinney reminds me a lot of Charles Woodson in that secondary. Knowing where the ball is, knowing where everyone's supposed to be, where everyone's not, where I need to be. He's just got a great knack for playing in that secondary, and it makes all of us, you know, better for it. So shout out to X for sure.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. All right, let's get out of here, Tim. Anything else, bub?
No, go Pack, go. Green and gold till we're dead and cold, baby. Let's get that dub on Sunday.
We'll start breaking down the Rams tomorrow, kind of diving into a little game plan with them. We'll also bring you the updated injury reports, everything like that. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us here on this afternoon. I know it was kind of a random show here as we went live a little early. If you would hit that like button for us, feel free to sub to the channel. If you're watching on Twitter, there's a link in my Twitter profile that'll send you to the YouTube channel. Feel free to hop on there and sub. It helps more than you know, but we appreciate y'all. Well, like I said, we'll be back tomorrow, man. We'll start breaking down this Rams game. Can't overlook them. Like Coach Lynn pointed out, too, can't get too aggressive in the pass rush because they do have a pretty decent screen game as well. But help out here, Tim.
For those of you listening on the pod,
thank you for making us part of your day. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world, and go Pack, go.